morning and good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of Before Coffee. It's Wacky and Weird Wednesday. Did we tell you that? That's right, we're covering all the wacky and weird stories we found this week and today. And there's some crazy ones out there. And some of them are kind of like sarcastic, you know? Like, oh, that's so weird and wacky. So, this is Before Coffee, the father and daughter comprehensive news of Planet Earth podcast, where we look up our stories 10 to 15 minutes before we've started, and we haven't had any caffeine. We just jumped out of bed and started looking at the news. So let's read these headlines. Today on Before Coffee, police find garden gnome made from 2 kilos of MDMA in the Netherlands, and biggest November snowstorm in half a century hits Seoul and grounds flights.
Wisconsin man who faked his own death is still not coming home from Eastern Europe.
Scientists create a strand of pasta 200 times thinner than a human hair. Why? I don't know.
And Brazil is prosecuting its former president for being a corrupt criminal. Imagine that, a country prosecuting a criminal.
In culture news, let's talk about the guys from FBI's early hunt for gangsters, the G-Men.
And it's many food day today, including craft beef jerky. But it's also Taiwan Day, which is the day before Thanksgiving, November 27th, 2024 on Before Coffee.
It might be to reduce carbs on pasta if you just make them all to a hair. But I really feel like 2,000 times thinner than hair. Like, I have very thin hair, okay? If somebody made pasta thinner than one strand of my hair, I don't know why you would do that. Okay, you wouldn't be able to see it.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Because I can barely see my hair, and this is the thinnest hair can really be, honestly. I have freaking candy floss hair, as they say. That's why it's always freaking in a ball. It's always in a tangled in a ball.
What's wrong with just having rice?
It wants to be a ball. Okay, anyways. Let's first cover the story about the garden gnome. Because
it all ends up as a ball in your stomach anyway.
Yeah, right. This garden gnome is made completely out of 2 kilos of MDMA, and it's colored like one too. This is from NOS, from out of Brabant. Police in West Brabant have found a garden gnome made entirely of MDMA, the active ingredient in ecstasy. The 2-kilogram gnome was found among a batch of other narcotics, according to Omroep Brabant. It's a strange place to keep your garden gnome, which is why we decided to test it for narcotics, said the police. Oh, they weren't keeping it in the garden. It wasn't in the garden where garden gnome belongs. It was just on their desk. And they're like, oh, why is this garden gnome surrounded by cocaine? Oh, it's made completely out of MDMA. Dogemon police, Oosterhout, Gertruidberg, Drimmelen, and Altena do not say where or when the gnome was discovered, but call the drug gnome a special find. It's not known whether any suspects have been arrested for the creation of the gnome, and the police also do not say how large the drug batch was that was discovered and how they came across it. That is so wild. They're just like, why is there a gnome here? Should we do a little swipe? Put it in the thing? Oh, that is MDMA. Is this whole thing, they cut it in half? Okay, it's not hollow either. The whole thing is just a giant 50-pound MDMA garden gnome. That's pretty impressive, honestly. I think it should be put in a museum. I hope they didn't destroy it. I hope it was put in a museum. There's our short story on garden gnomes. And a bigger story about crazy weather in Seoul. Well, in probably the entirety of Korea is probably being hit by this blizzard. This is from Kim Dong-young on AP News, coming out of Seoul. The biggest November snowstorm to hit South Korea's capital in more than half a century blanketed the capital today, because it's already been Wednesday for Seoul. I think it's actually probably tomorrow there. Oh, it's 9 p.m. in Seoul right now. So they've been hit by a blizzard today, grounding hundreds of flights, disrupting commuter traffic, and leaving at least 2 dead. South Korea's weather agency said 20 to 26 centimeters or 7 to 10 inches of snow fell in the northern areas of Seoul and nearby areas. Agencies said it was the heaviest snowstorm Seoul has experienced in November in 52 years. A storm on November 28, 1972, dumped 12 centimeters or 4.7 inches. Okay, so let's review that again. This one dropped 20 to 26. The last time they had a snowstorm that big was 52 years ago, and that was half-ish at 12 centimeters. So this is the most this is the most snow they've seen in probably way longer, because I think they said a century. Yeah. South Korea's Yonhap news agency said one person died and 4 others were injured in a 5-vehicle accident in the eastern town of Hongcheon. In the town of Yangju, a tent-type garage collapsed and killed a person who was removing snow, according to Snow Korea's Ministry of the Interior and Safety. Snow caused temporary power outages at about 230 homes, which is terrible because it must be freezing cold if there's a blizzard. In the cities of Gwangju, near Seoul, according to the Gyeonggi provincial government. Storm blanketed much of the country, with central, eastern, and southwestern regions recording about 10 to 20 centimeters or 3.9 to 11 inches of snow cover. And there's a bunch of pictures which I can attempt to show you, I suppose. If I just get my nifty OBS out here, I can show you the pictures of the snow. Let's see, where is that? Oh, copy. Could have done this before the show started, but it's way more fun this way.
Yeah. Sure.
All right, let's see. Okay. Accept your cookies. Just let me look at the pictures, please. All right, so here are the pictures, which are, there's some people shoveling snow next to like probably like a famous politician or something there. This isn't letting me scroll suddenly. But let me scroll down to the picture and then it'll stop letting me scroll. But there's one picture, I guess. I can't show you anymore. Okay, this is why. There we go. Okay, now we can scroll. And then there's some bikes just chocked full of snow here. And we also have some traditional Korean girls in their traditional outfits. I think also men in traditional outfits, but they're all walking around in the snow. Visitors enjoy snow at the Gyeongbok Palace, one of South Korea's well-known landmarks in Seoul. So they're enjoying it. It's not deadly snowstorm. It is also not, the best conditions to be outside. At least 317 flights were canceled or delayed at airports nationwide, while authorities ordered around 90 ferries to remain at port. They also shut down hundreds of hiking trails. Icy road conditions slowed down the morning commute in Seoul and led to massive crowds at subways, causing delays. Emergency workers across the country responded to fallen trees, road signs, and other safety risks. Officials at the safety ministry said they couldn't confirm any school closures as of today. I don't know why they wouldn't have closed schools, but I guess people are walking around in it fine, just as long as they don't get in a car. Visitors dressed in traditional Hanbok garb were busy taking photographs at Seoul's snow-covered medieval palaces, while snowmen popped up in playgrounds and schoolyards across the country. The weather agency said snow will continue in most parts of the country until noon tomorrow. President Yoon Suk-yeol instructed the Safety and Transport Ministries to mobilize all available relevant personnel and equipment to prevent traffic and other accidents. This was also written in conjunction with Hyung Jin Kim in Seoul, South Korea, for AP News. There you go. Some snow. Oh, I guess there's more pictures. Here we go. Let me look at these. There's more pictures at the bottom of this snow-covered place. Let me drag there. Okay,
more pictures.
Here we go. People throwing snowballs at each other, and covered mountains, and more pictures.
The novelty of it all.
A giant red thing by a Christmas tree. I don't know what that is. Is that a post box? A volunteer man wearing a costume of Salvation Army pot. Okay, that's what I thought. I was like, what is that? What is that supposed to be? Like a kind of drone shot of like the traffic and the snow-covered city. Oh, there we go. That's what it looks like in Seoul today. Very beautiful, and Luckily, only 2 people have died, and no more have since this report, I hope. That's my story. And on to yours, I guess.
Okay, well, I'm back with AP News. We're using them for all of our stories today, looks like. A Wisconsin man who faked his own drowning this summer and left his wife and 3 children has been located in Eastern Europe and is communicating with law enforcement, but he has not committed to returning home, authorities said.
Uh-oh.
Ryan Bogwart began communicating with authorities on November 11th after they tracked him down. Green Lake County Sheriff Mark Podol said Thursday the sheriff showed a video that Bogwart sent police that day from an undisclosed location. The sheriff said no charges have been filed and that he doesn't think they will be necessary while authorities keep pulling at his heartstrings to come home. Here are some things to know about Bogwart and his disappearance. Who is he? Bogwart, who is in his mid-40s, lived with his wife and children in Watertown, a city of about 23,000 people in northwest of Milwaukee that is known for its German heritage, parochial schools, and 2 dams on the Rock River. Damn! Anyway, when did he disappear? The sheriff said his department was told on August 12th that Bogwart had not been heard from since the previous day when he traveled about 50 miles from home to Green Lake to go kayaking. Bogwart's wife said he texted her at 10:49 p.m. to say he was heading to shore. Now, the sun might still be on horizon on August in Wisconsin at 10:49. I mean, it gets completely dark around 10, so this is August. Yeah, it was probably still dark. Deputies found Bogwart's vehicle and trailer near Green Lake. His kayak was discovered on the lake, overturned, and with a life jacket attached to it in an area where the water is about 200 feet deep. An angler later told Bogwart's fishing. An angler later found Bogwart's fishing rod. The search for his body continued for more than 50 days, with divers scouring the lake on several occasions. This guy should be reimbursing people. I'm sorry. No charges, my ass. They're just selling that so when he'll come home, right?
Yeah.
You probably don't believe him.
Slap some cuffs on him right when he drops off the plane.
Right. And I just scrolled away too. Yeah. So 50 days with divers looking for him. And he was never there, of course. How did authorities find Bogwart? Clues, including that he reported his passport lost or stolen and obtained a new one a few months before he disappeared, and led investigators to speculate that he made it appear that he had drowned to go meet a woman who he had been communicate with in Central Asian country of Uzbekistan.
Oh, man.
Podol declined to comment when asked what he knew about the woman, but he said law enforcement contacted Bogwart through a female that spoke Russian. His identity was confirmed through asking him questions that the sheriff said Bogwart would know, and by a video he made and sent them November 11th. He has spoken with someone from the sheriff's department almost daily since. However, Podol said Thursday that Bogwart's exact location in Eastern Europe was not known. Why are the U.S. authorities struggling to pinpoint his location? Podol said Chief Deputy Matt Van de Kolk had been the one communicating with Bogwart and that the conversations had taken place via email. Van de Kolk told the Associated Press in an email Friday that authorities were trying to determine Bogwart's exact location, but that might not be easy even with modern surveillance technology. Scott Shackelford, Executive Director of the Center for Applied Cybersecurity Research at Indiana. This is really getting involved, man. Scott Shackelford, Executive Director for the Center for Applied Cybersecurity Research at Indiana University, said authorities should be able to locate Bogwart through his device's internet protocol address, unique number assigned to every device connected to the internet. But he said it was very easy to mask an IP address and make it appear as if the device is in one country when it really is another. Software exists that can route your IP address across the globe, Shackelford said. Police may not have the expertise, the manpower, or any interest in digging through multiple layers of cyber deception. And they're not even going to charge this guy with a crime. So why would you go to all that trouble? Right?
Yeah, I don't know.
They got to make him pay for the fucking search.
Yeah.
I mean, oh, it's all forgiven. You're like, okay. He must be a white guy, right? Obviously.
Well, he is from Wisconsin, so very likely.
Yeah, you want our special white guy back? Screw him. Throw him in prison. Wearing an orange t-shirt, Bargwart, unsmiling, looks directly at the camera, apparently filmed on a cell phone. Bargwart says he is in his apartment and briefly pans the camera, but mostly shows a door and bare walls. I'm safe and secure, no problem, he says. Well, we're not curious.
I'm in a room.
I'm really
Congratulations.
I'm really beginning to dislike
I hope he's not
this guy.
safe and secure.
I hope he stays in Eastern I hope his son grows up and beats his ass. How did he fake his death? Bogwart has told authorities he overturned a kayak on a lake, dumped his phone in it, and paddled an inflatable boat to shore. He told authorities he chose Green Lake because it's Wisconsin's deepest at 237 feet, over 72 meters.
They probably had to hire divers.
He goes straight to the bottom.
Yeah, they probably had to hire
exactly.
divers. You know how expensive that is? Damn.
If the water's that deep and it's like Lake Superior, the water's that cold, the bodies stay at the bottom.
Yeah.
So... He then rode an electric bike stashed by a boat launch about 70 miles through the night to Madison, sheriff said. From there, by Bogwart's account, he traveled by bus to Detroit, then Canada, where he boarded a plane. Police are still verifying Bogwart's description of what happened, Poldale said.
I like how he's like, I want to stealthily pretend I'm dead, and then it's like, okay, you guys found me. I'll tell you the whole story, you know? He could just keep denying. That's not me. I'm somebody else. That's a
kudos to the detective that discovered.
Yeah.
Kudos to the detective that found out he took out an insurance policy in January, and he also, changed his passport. Bogwart faked his death and fled. He said he lost his passport, so he didn't need to know it, but he didn't lose it, probably. Bogwart fakes his death and fled because of personal matters, thinking it was the right thing to do, the sheriff said. Investigators found that he took $375,000 life insurance policy in January for his family. At least you think of his family while he's faking his death, right? He was just going to try and make things better in his mind. And this was the way it was going to be. Okay. What's next? Bogwart has not yet been decided to return home, and if he does, it will be of his own free will, according to Podol. Deputies are stressing to him that the importance of returning home and cleaning up the mess he made. The sheriff suggested that Bogwart could be charged with obstructing the investigation into his disappearance, but so far no counts have been filed. The search for Bogwart, which lasted more than a month, is said to have cost at least $35,000. Bogwart told authorities they did not expect the search to last more than 2 weeks. Podol said, and his biggest concern now is how the community will react to him if he returns.
I knew people were going to search for me, but for that long. Okay, so he still knew people would be wasting money, their taxes on trying to find him still, Yep.
Well, I hope he's in a warm place because he's going back to Wisconsin now. Winter's coming.
No, I don't think so.
He's in a warm place. He doesn't want to come back. They don't even know what country he's in. They don't even know what country he's in. Eastern Europe.
Omlin in chat
Eastern Europe
says,
or Asia.
I agree. Plus, how must his wife and kids feel about being abandoned? I hope he comes back to court papers and she takes him for every dime. So I agree. I
want to play this guy in the TV movie. I know I'm too old, but I want to be in the movie. I want to be him. I'm like, damn, I really need to go to Eastern Europe right this minute. Anyway, back to you.
That's crazy. What a wild story. All right. Then from that, let's talk about pasta. As thin, 200 times thinner than hair. Why have they done this? I'm hoping very deeply that this article is about to tell me why they've, unless it's just like, because we can. This is Nina Macy on The Independent. The extremely fine strands of material known as nanofibers could have important use in medicine. See, there we go. That's what I wanted to hear. Researchers have crafted the world's thinnest spaghetti, which is about 200 times thinner than the human hair. The pasta is not intended to be new food, but was created because these extremely fine strands of material they call nanofibers could have important medical uses. Among the uses for the nanofibers are to make bandages to help wound the healing, They allow water and moisture in but keep bacteria out as scaffolding for bone regeneration and for drug delivery. However, UCL-led researchers said it is more environmentally friendly to create the strands directly from starch-rich ingredients like flour, which is the basis for pasta. Nanofibers made of starch produced by the most green plants rely on starch being extracted from plant cells and purified, and the process needs a lot of energy and water. So it's better to use starch. Co-author Dr. Adam Clancy, UCL's chemistry, said, "To make spaghetti, you push a mixture of water and flour through metal holes. In our study, we did the same, except we pulled our flour mixture through with an electrical charge. It's literally spaghetti, but much smaller." In the new study, published in Nanoscale Advances, scientists described making spaghetti just 372 nanometers, or billionths of a meter across, using a technique called electrospinning. Oh, so it's like when you're making thread, but really tiny and with a battery, in which threads of flour and liquid are pulled through the tip of a needle by an electric charge. In their paper, the researchers described the next thinnest known pasta, called su filendu, threads of God, made by hand by a pasta maker in the town of Nuoro, Sardinia. The pasta is estimated at around 400 microns wide, 100 times thicker than their new creation. Well, of course, a human can't make pasta this thin. You definitely need science of some sort to do this. The newly created nanopasta formed a mat of nanofibers about 2 centimeters across, and so is visible, but each individual strand is too thin to be clearly captured by any form of visible light camera or microscope. Not even microscopes can see this thin pasta. Co-author Professor Gareth Williams, UCL School of Pharmacy, said, "Nanofibers such as these are made of starch. Show potential for use in wound dressing as they are very porous." In addition, nanofibers are being explored for use as a scaffold to regrow tissue, as they mimic the extracellular matrix, a network of proteins and other molecules that cells build to support themselves. He added, "I don't think it's useful as pasta, sadly. It would overcook in less than a second before you could take it out of the pan." Oh, darn, we can't eat our nanopasta then. The researchers use flour and formic acid to make the pasta, rather than water, as the formic acid breaks up in giant stacks of spirals that make up starch. Cooking has the same effect on the starch as formic acid, breaking it up to make the pasta digestible. Researchers also had to carefully warm up the mixture for several hours before slowly pulling it back down to make sure it was the right consistency. So they still kind of had to cook it, but they cooked it in formic acid instead of in water, boiling water. And they had to do it very slowly to make sure, okay, it's stretchy and pliable like pasta. Put it in. I don't know. I guess they're going to try doing trials on it anyways, and see if it's going to actually work as a what they want to use it for. I was looking at, I wanted to look up what actually the process is called. What did they say?
Angel hair.
We created it using a process known as electrospinning. Electrospinning.
It's not microscopic angel hair or something?
Yeah, basically. Electrospinning is a technique that uses electrical force based on electrohydrodynamic principles to draw charged threads of polymer solution for producing nanofibers with diameters ranging from nanometers to micrometers. Electrospinning shares characteristics of both electrospraying and conventional solution of dry spinning of fibers. The process does not require the use of coagulation chemistry or high temperatures to produce solid threads from solutions. This makes the process particularly suited to production of fibers using large and complex molecules. Electrospinning from molten precursors is also practiced. This method ensures that no solvent can be carried over to the final product. Okay, and then there's a little cute graph. So you polarize the thing you want to turn into a thread. Then you, I guess, use
the
that
molecules
polarization.
Line themselves up.
Yeah. So you make it a positive charged, and then you use a negative charge to pull it through. Or at least in this idea, the liquid is negative charged, and that pulls it through. with an. Oh.
And
you know anything about your
well,
positive, negative charges? That's how that works. Oh no, yeah. So, and it looks like a little. It looks kind of like a top. You know, the top is where you put it in, and then it's like bigger on the other side, so it has gravity going. So the positive charge.
Mm-hmm.
And you use the gravity as well, because the gravity helps as well to pull it through. And it just pulls it all the way down. And then you come out with... You probably can't see it. I think they probably just make multiple so that they can actually see it, because like I said, you can't even see it with a microscope. There is some micro nanofiber there, I think. We're not sure. The machine has told us it did it, okay? That's all I can tell you. You just have to keep feeding it until it becomes a pile. Yeah.
Again, there's people starving in the world. There's people absolutely starving, and we're playing with our food. Just wanted to point that out.
Typical. Well, your story now. Whatever you're going to cover.
My story? Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, the
Okay,
Bolsonaro.
so I did send you a video, by the way.
Okay.
It's, best I could do. It's a Thanksgiving related. It's funny, and it's weird. Definitely weird.
It's definitely
weird in the title. Yeah, okay. Oh, and countries in the Western Hemisphere, the still civilized country of Brazil, who is learning to actually enforce their laws, unlike, some countries that are north of there, that I won't remain unnamed, that begin with USA. This is from Associated Press, Mauricio Savarisi and Eleonore Hughes. Brazil's former far-right president... Let me take my glasses off. I was only had them on to look at the video I was watching. But I got the big type. I don't need the glasses now. Brazil's former far-right president, Jair Bolsonaro? I'm just going to call him Bolsonaro for now on. Was fully aware of and actively participated in a coup plot to remain in office after his defeat in 2022 election, according to the federal police report sealed on Tuesday.
Wow, that sounds so familiar.
Yeah.
I feel like somebody else tried to do that too.
Federal police. Yeah, exactly. And this guy is not going to get away with it, because Brazil said, you can't run for president. You're a dirtbag. Federal police last Thursday formally accused Bolsonaro and 36 other people of attempting a coup. Of course, again, here's another thing Brazil did. They arrested the people the same day, the same day while they were at the crime. Imagine that. We couldn't do that in the United States. Oh, that's too much. Wow. Of course, Trump was in charge of the Justice Department then, so there's no chance of them doing anything. But anyway, in the United States, we just got an attorney general named Merrick Garland who does nothing. Basically just appeases the right wing. So he was a 4-year waste of time. They probably should put Merrick Garland in prison just for being incompetent. The unsealed document, we'll go back to Brazil. They sent their 884-page report to the Supreme Court, which lifted the seal. The unsealed documents provides a first glimpse of several testimonies that describe the former president as one of the key leaders of the plot and not a mere observer. The evidence collected throughout the investigation shows unequivocally that then President Jair Messias Bolsonaro planned, acted, and was directly and effectively aware of his actions of the criminal organization aiming to launch a coup d'etat and eliminate the democratic rule of law, which did not take place due to reasons unrelated to his desire, the document said. At another point, it says Bolsonaro had full awareness and active participation. Bolsonaro, who had repeatedly alleged without evidence that the country's electronic voting system was prone to fraud, called the meeting in December 2022, during which he presented a draft decree to the commanders of 3 divisions of the armed forces, according to the police report signed by 4 investigators. The decree would have launched an investigation into suspicion of fraud and crimes related to the October 2022 vote and suspended the powers of the nation's electoral count. The Navy's commander stood ready to comply, but those from the Army and Air Force objected to any plan that prevented Lula's inauguration, the report said. Those refusals are why the plan did not go ahead, according to the witnesses who spoke to investigators. So actually, patriotic people in the military, at least most of them. Bolsonaro never signed the decree to set the final stage of the alleged plan into action. Federal police said the former president and his allies first expected to launch the coup d'etat on December 15th of 22. The document also said the top military personnel who stood in the way became targets of online attacks by a pro-Bolsonaro digital militia group. Bolsonaro repeatedly denied any wrongdoing, of awareness of any plot to keep him in power, or oust his leftist rival and successor, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva. No one is going to do a coup with a reserve general and a half a dozen other officers. What is being said is absurd. For my part, there's never been any discussion of a coup, Bolsonaro told journalists in Brazil's capital, Brasilia, on Monday. Yeah, not a lot of people know Brazil's capital is Brasilia. It's not Rio or Sao Paulo. If someone comes to discuss a coup with me, I'd say that's fine. But the day after, how does the world view us? He added. The word coup has never been in my dictionary. Really? You got to get a new dictionary. The top court has passed the report to the prosecutor general Paulo Gonet, probably Gonet, I would think. He will decide whether to formally charge Bolsonaro, that put him on trial, or toss the investigation. So they haven't actually decided to do it yet. The former president was formally accused of these crimes, violating an elimination of the rule of law, staging a coup d'etat, and forming a criminal organization. Rodrigo Rios, a law professor at PUC University and University of Curitiba, said Bolsonaro could face at least 11 years in prison if convicted on all charges. A woman involved in the January 8 attack on the Supreme Court received a 17-year prison sentence, Rios told the Associated Press, noting that the former president is more likely to receive 15 years or more if convicted. Bolsonaro's future looks dark. In the January 8, 22 plot, his followers ransacked the Supreme Court and Presidential Palace in Brasilia, seeking to prompt their intervention by the army that would oust Lula from power. João Pedro Paidua, I think that's how it's pronounced, a law professor at the University of Federal Fluminense in Rio de Janeiro, said Bolsonaro's defense could argue that actions of planning a coup d'etat, as many described in the document, shouldn't be prosecuted as if the group had acted. There's a distinction between preparatory actions and execution of actions. Planning is typically a preparatory action, Padua said, with a bunch of nonsense. Of course, there is some execution actions here too. Pressure on key military agents is one, but there will be a debate about that. Dude, he was trying to stage a coup. There's no denying it. Why do you keep acting like he wasn't?
Yeah.
Padua, whose name I can't really pronounce, but added that the Bolsonaro faces the biggest risk of conviction on the count of forming a criminal organization, as the document shows evidence that he had several meetings with key allies to discuss the plot. Ahead of the 22 election, Bolsonaro repeatedly alleged that the election system was not use paper ballots could be tampered with. The top electoral court later ruled that he had abused his power to cast unfounded doubt in the voting system and had ruled him ineligible for office until 2030. Still, he has maintained he will stand as a candidate in the 2026 race. Since Bolsonaro left office, he has been targeted by several investigations, all of which has chalked up to political persecution. Federal police have accused him of smuggling a diamond jewelry into Brazil without properly declaring it and directing a subordinate to falsify and others' COVID-19 vaccination status. Authorities are also investigating whether he incited a January 8, 22 riot. Bolsonaro had left for the United States before Lula's inauguration on January 1st, 2023. I think he means the January 8th, 2023 riot. I think that's what they mean. Bolsonaro had left the they got their year wrong, because the next paragraph starts with Bolsonaro had left for the United States before Lula's inauguration on January 1st of 23 and stayed there 3 months, keeping a low profile. The police reported on Seoul Tuesday alleged he was seeking to avoid possible imprisonment related to the coup plot and awaiting the uprising that took place a week later. Senator Flavio Bolsonaro, one of the former president's sons, said Tuesday evening that the only path for some normalcy and some balance between the powers is amnesty for the far-right leader, his allies, and his supporters. It has to be a wide-ranging, general, and unrestricted amnesty. I'm very convinced that. It has to include Justice Alexandro de Moraes, too, Flavio Bolsonaro said during a session of the Senate. He and his allies claim de Moraes has overstepped the investigations of the former president and want him impeached. Oh, yeah, let's impeach the guy who's investigating my daddy. My daddy. What's my daddy? You can't impeach my daddy. You can't throw him in jail. You can't throw my daddy in jail. That's his plea. We got to impeach anybody who's enforcing the law, right? De Moraes denies any wrongdoing on the probe and insisted he will not leave the investigation, though he was one of the targets of the plot. There's your story in Brazil.
Wow.
Back to you.
I mean, it hasn't been
Back
the first
to you.
time. If you look at history, it happens all the time. There's always coups happening. It's a normal thing. But, yeah, I mean...
In the United States, we don't learn from history.
No, you don't. You try to act like you're special, and that the things that happen there, you know, are special to only the United States and never happens anywhere else. For sure.
Like the guy told me the other day, you should get over the election. I told him, you should get over your dad committing suicide. You should get over
like that.
You know?
No.
You should suggest what I should get over. Right?
Yeah.
Go away. Stop telling me what I should get over.
Yeah.
You know? Right.
All right. Let's talk about my culture segment, or my weird and wacky culture segment here, which is about the FBI's G-Men. This is from Martin Pengilly on The Guardian. John Oller's new book tells how the FBI took down John Dillinger, Babyface Nelson, Bonnie and Clyde, and other celebrity criminals of the 1930s as President Franklin Delano Roosevelt waged his war on crime. In prose fast as the Essex Terraplane getaway car, Oller recounts and deconstructs the myths that grew around such bank robbers, kidnappers, and killers. He also spotlights the agents who chased and caught and sometimes killed the criminals or were killed themselves, names long eclipsed by that of J. Edgar Hoover, who led the FBI for 48 years. Hoover was such a large-than-life figure. He wanted to keep it that way, Oller said. He wanted his agents to be anonymous. If any name was going to be associated with the FBI, he was going to be it. And he pulled it off. That's the reason none of these guys I write about have ever been known. They kept it that way. Like the criminals they hunted, agents, G-men in the slang of the day, have occasionally been played by Hollywood stars. In the movie Public Enemies with Johnny Depp as Dillinger, Christian Bale played Hoover's deputy, Melvin Purvis. It was a total miscasting, but none of the other guys in the book are really known by the public. Sam Crowley, who killed Babyface Nelson, was killed himself in 1934, may be known a little bit if you're really versed in the genre. So, I was attracted by the anonymity of these guys, and I wanted to bring to fore some of these people who I never talked about. I wanted to track down the descendants. Oller said, interesting. Anyways, Oller said, I was looking at a picture, talking to son and daughters, grandson. Oh, sorry, why am I giving him an accent? Oller did so, talking to sons and daughters, grandsons and granddaughters. If the result is a little more public interest in Walter F. Traynor, who unraveled the conspiracy behind the Kansas City massacre, or Johnny Mandala from Chicago, or Bill Rohrer, who captured Machine Gun Kelly, the kidnapper, not the rapper, and then Oller, so much the better. Yes, Machine Gun Kelly is named off of a famous criminal, just in case you guys weren't alive in 1920. Oller is well aware the FBI's reputation has never been spotless, though he does laugh at how the trust of the feds has recently switched from left to right. Yes, that's right. The leftists used to hate the feds, and now the right hates the feds. Of Hoover, who died in 1972, Oller says he takes a lot of criticism, and some is very justified. Much of it comes from the 1950s and 1960s, when, as The Guardian recently put it, Hoover pursued strong-arm tactics, political manipulation, and disregard for civil liberties, using the FBI's extensive intelligence gathering capabilities to monitor political dissidents, civil rights leaders, and other groups he deemed a threat to national security. Which is really fucked up. Looking back to the 30s, when Hoover sent agents chasing across state lines, Aller said, one of the things a lot of critics say as well is, why did he spend all his time going after those two-bit bank robbers instead of the mafia and organized crime? The mafia was mostly a big city phenomenon. They dealt in big profit items, counterfeiting, prostitution, gambling, alcohol, drugs, and the like. Whereas these guys, Dillinger, Nelson, et al., were bank robbers, and with some of these Midwest banks, they were taking a flyer, really. It was the time of the Dust Bowl and the Great Depression. How much money would be in the bank? Sometimes the robbers are told, oh, there's $200,000, and they get there and there was only $15,000 because the bank had just deposited the money in the Federal Reserve. While bank robbery was fairly easy to succeed at, you had to be willing to shoot people, if necessary. There was killing of cops and innocent bystanders. And there's a photo of famous Bonnie and Clyde duo. I didn't even know they got their picture taken. That's cool. It's cool that they got their picture taken so you know what they looked like. So I say in the book it was true. If you were a Main Street shopkeeper and a small town cop or an innocent bystander on the street, you're in much greater danger of being killed or seriously wounded by Don Dillinger or Bonnie and Clyde than you were by Al Capone in Chicago. The mafia, big organized crime, they might go after each other at times, they might go over cops, but if they hadn't paid them sufficiently. But for the most part, it was the scourge of these bank robbers that got the FBI involved, and the kidnappings too. Gangster Hunters opens with a kidnapping of the baby son of Charles Lindbergh, aviation hero, in New Jersey in 1932. The crime of a century transfixed the nation, but Aller also recounts kidnappings of businessmen, among them the beer magnate William Ham and Charles Urschel, an oil millionaire, which the FBI investigated. Those were high-profile cases because at least two of the kidnapped victims, their families were close friends and political contributors to FDR. So it became a big cause célèbre when they were taken, and that was big money. The kidnappers began as bank robbers, and I think they concluded that bank robbery was risky, but if you snatched a businessman off the street, you could get $100,000 or $200,000. And in the Depression era, that was real money. If you had 5 or 6 bank robbers splitting $15,000, it wasn't that much. Clyde Barrow and Bonnie Parker, they didn't even rob a bank that had more than a couple. Sorry?
The kidnapping economy of the Great Depression.
Yeah, exactly. It was big. If you hit big, you played big. Clyde Barrow and Bonnie Parker, they didn't
big in Mexico too. They
didn't ever rob a bank that had more than a couple $1,000s. They mostly robbed grocery stores and filling stations. They wouldn't have been famous for those photographs with Bonnie smoking a cigar and pointing the gun at Clyde. It was really the romantic element that made them known. The myth. Therein lies another angle to Aller's book, the romanticization of true crime. Early on, Aller introduces Charlie Arthur Floyd, aka Pretty Boy Floyd. The chapter is called A Hood Like Robin Hood. Stories of Floyd stealing from rich and giving to the poor were legion. Aller recounts one that when Charlie robbed banks, he tore up mortgages to save defaulting farmers from being foreclosed. Aller points out that the tale is probably apocryphal because banks had copies, but no matter. Too many during the Depression. Banks were the enemy, and anyone who stole from them couldn't be all bad. Floyd was even memorialized in song by Woody Guthrie, which some of you may have heard before.
Criminals were heroes in the 30s.
Yeah.
Yep. Criminals were heroes in the 30s. They were. Even Al Capone. He was giving press conferences all the time.
Yeah. Aller had told stories on true crime podcasts, modern-day successors to magazines like True Detective, avidly read in the 1930s. 2 or 3 times, Aller says, gangsters were recognized and reported to the FBI by readers of the True Detective. Those magazines were really popular, and they were not as inaccurate as you might think. I mean, they were pulp fiction, but sometimes they're the best and only source, and you kind of have to make a judgment as to whether something rings true or not. There's a picture of Pretty Boy Floyd, $5,000 reward, dead or alive, enemy number 1, dark hair, gray eyes, complexion medium, scars and marks, 1 tattoo, nurse in rose, on the shoulder. Researchers and judgment calls are in Aller's blood. He studied journalism at Ohio State, then was a Wall Street lawyer before turning to writing. He aptly talks of setting out to find descendants and visit scenes of stakeouts and shootouts. That's really cool. That must be fun to do now that it's all over with, you know. He has even been something of a detective himself. Among his previous books, in An All-American Murder about the unsolved killings of teenage girl Christy Lynn Mullins in Clintonville, Ohio in 1975. In 2015, police closed the case, giving Aller credit where credit is due. Wow, he really helped solve unsolved mystery. That's amazing. Oller's other book includes The Swamp Fox, about the Revolutionary War figure Francis Marion, a biography of the 30s film star Jean Arthur, and Rogue Galleries, the story of policing in turn of the century New York. He's not sure what's next, but happily talks with the gangster hunters, the FBI agents he wants the readers to know. Most of these guys were law school graduates. They were not from the Ivy League, and they didn't go to Wall Street firms. They couldn't get legal jobs often, so the FBI sounded like a good gig. So they got set up in their desk, and all of a sudden, someone put a Tommy gun in their hand and said, "Go find John Dillinger." Many of these guys had never fired a weapon. They didn't know how to shoot. That's the weird part of this story. They certainly had never shot another human being or had been shot at. So inevitably, that they made mistakes. Over time, they adapted and became more experienced, but in the beginning, it was a touch-and-go operation. Gangster Hunters is out now if you would like to read the weird happenings of the FBI, the G-Men, and, of course, the killings / kidnapping / bank robbery time of the 30s during the Great Depression. And that's my culture segment about the FBI's G-Men.
Yes, the good old days when criminals were folk heroes.
Yep. The good old days.
I guess they were good old days.
I mean, you could get shot in the street if you were by a bank. But,
More good old days. Yeah, right. These bystanders getting shot, and everybody's like, "Oh, isn't John Dillinger a folk hero?" Yeah, the dead people are really thrilled about him. In this day in history, in the year 511, Clovis I, the king of the Franks and ruler of much of Gaul, which was what France was called, ancient France was called Gaul. From 481 to 511, he died in Paris on this day. It was a key period during the transformation of the Roman Empire into Europe. So Europe started becoming a thing. Because the Romans called France Gaul. They didn't call it France. Because it wasn't called France. Until the king of the Franks, Clovis I, took over, right? 1874, Chaim Weizmann, the first president of Israel. Sorry, it's Chaim. I think that's pronounced Chaim. Or Chaim, probably, because it's Jewish, right? Chaim Weizmann. The first president of Israel's guiding force behind the World Zionist Organization was born. So happy birthday to him. 1919, the Treaty of Neuilly, outlining the post-World War I peace terms for Bulgaria, was signed between the defeated country and the Allied powers. We didn't even know Bulgaria was in World War I. Okay, they were there. Way to go, Bulgaria. 1924, the first Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, we talked about this yesterday, was held in New York City, and it became an American tradition, especially known for its huge balloons, which were introduced in 1927, and we discussed how they became a hazard. 1942, in this day, the French Navy scuttled 73 ships at Toulon in order to avoid German seizure since during World War II. So yeah, we got invaded, we got took over, so we just stunk a bunch of our 73 ships.
Wow.
1951, American filmmaker Catherine Bigelow was born. She was the first woman to win an Oscar for the Best Director in the movie The Hurt Locker in 2008. 1953, Eugene O'Neill died at the age of 65. He was a playwright and author of The Long Day's Journey into Night. 1973, on this day, Gerald Ford, the United Senate, was voted overwhelmingly in favor of Gerald R. Ford succession to the vice presidency. I think that's funny because the U.S. House of Representatives was totally dominated by the Democrats in 1973, and they still voted for a Republican to be vice president. They said, no, Nixon, appoint us a Democrat, or we're not going to approve him. But they let Gerald Ford sail in the vice presidency, and of course, when Nixon resigned, Ford became president and pardoned Nixon. Oh, isn't that sweet? This is another case of, we can't put him in jail. The poor, look at him, he's not built for jail. That was, I guess, the reason. I have no idea. In 1978, and this day is a tragic day, gay rights activist Harvey Milk was one of the first openly gay elected official, was assassinated. Of course, Mira Moscone was assassinated the same day. I'm not sure why they're not talking about that. Anyway, Harvey Milk was assassinated along with the mayor of San Francisco, Moscone, which apparently he didn't matter. I don't understand this blur. Okay, anyway, because Harvey Milk was the first openly gay elected official in U.S. history, he was assassinated in San Francisco. His killer, Dan White, who was later convicted of manslaughter after successfully alleging that clinical depression had impaired his judgment. Although the thing that happened because of this assassination is that Dianne Feinstein became mayor of San Francisco and later became a senator for about 40 years or something like that. She just retired like a couple of years ago. So that happened on this day in 1978. 1983, and they interrupted a football game, I'm pretty sure. I was watching a football game, they interrupted it. The revised Code of Canon law signed by Pope John Paul II in January took effect. That's in 1983. The revised Code of Canon. I don't know. Well, some Catholic stuff. In 2014, on this date, British mystery novelist P.D. James died in Oxford, England. He earned this sobriquet Queen of Crime, primarily for 14 novels featuring the fictional detective Adam Dalglish of Scotland Yard. So, not familiar, but maybe I'll get familiar someday. Our featured event, the Nobel Prizes were established on this day in 1895 through the will drawn up by Alfred Barnard Nobel, the Swedish chemist, engineer, and industrialist who invented dynamite and other more powerful explosives. The Nobel Prizes were established on this day in 1895. Our birthday, it's the birthday of Jimi Hendrix. Jimi Hendrix's birthday today. He was born in 1942. He'd be 82 today, but he's in the 27 club because Jimi Hendrix died on September 18th, 1970 at the age of 27. Other birthdays today, Bruce Lee, another person who died young. American-born actor. Not in the 27 club, I don't think, though, but no, he died in the 70s. So he was born in 1940, so happy 84 to Bruce Lee. Happy, let's say 67 to Carolyn Kennedy, American attorney, author, and ambassador, and daughter of JFK. 1960s birthday of Yulia Tymoshenko, Prime Minister of Ukraine. Tymoshenko, not the current one, but the guy probably that Zelensky replaced, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Possibly. Since he's born in 1960, that means he's only 64, so he's probably still around. National Bavarian Cream Pie Day today. So, wow, I want some cream pie. It's also National Craft Jerky Day. So if you make your own jerky like I do, or you don't have to make it out of beef, you can make it out of deer, you can make it out of elk, you can make it out of pork, you can make it out of chicken, you can make it out of turkey. But I think beef is the one that holds together the best, you know. It's also National Jukebox Day. Yeah, every year, the day before Thanksgiving, for some reason, it's National Jukebox Day. And also, every year, the day before Thanksgiving, is National Tie One On Day. In other words, tie on your apron so you can start cooking. Don't just tie one on is slang in the United States for getting shit-faced, drunk. So, it's National Tie One On Day. It's National Bavarian Cream Pie, Jerky, and Jukebox. Jerkies and jukeboxes today for everyone. Jerky for everyone. So those are your days for today. November 27th, 2024 on Before Bavarian Cream Pie.
Delicious. All right.
Yeah.
This has been Allie here from the Netherlands and Rod from the US as we've covered all our wacky and weird news that's been going on this week. And today, we will see you tomorrow for Thursday's 13, where we will count down 13 things on a list. And it's going to be exciting. We'll also cover general news that's been happening this week that isn't themed on wacky or good. And we'll hope to see you there. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on those notifications on the Allie and Raj channel so you know when we post a video or go live. Like this video and comment down below if you would have been a kidnapper in the 30s. Probably. I could kidnap people. Maybe not rob banks, but I could kidnap people. That doesn't seem so hard. Probably easier for a woman too.
Well, the thing about kidnapping is you got to keep them somewhere, right? That's the hard part.
Yeah. And I'll be doing yoga after this.
You gotta dig a hole.
I haven't done yoga yet today, but that's it. Okay. Hope you guys have a good rest of your day. And here is the mic drop moment.
All right.
Our Thanksgiving themed moment.
And weird themed. Don't forget that.
And weird, yeah.
Weird Al. And she's not wearing an apron. She didn't tie one on.
She does not want to be there.
I'm trying to figure out what I know what song this is. It's Moni Moni by Tommy James with Shondells.
Is it really that loud?
Moni Moni's.
Wow.
I don't know what song this is.
Umbrella by Rihanna.
Ah, okay.
Oh, not cold turkey, dude. Stop opening the oven. You're just making it hot, colder. That's a pretty good one. That's a really good one.
In the Navy by Village People.
The buttered rolls that my cousin brings. He's got 6 kids with food allergies.
6 kids with food allergies.
Oh, that's a lot.
Wild and out of control. The only thing they eat, the butter
That's
rolls.
Thunder Road. That's the name of that one.
Butter rolls. That one's a good one. His mustache fell off.
Oh, no, it's fine.
Oh, Backstreet Boys. Or is it New Kids on the Block? I forget. New Kids on the Block, right?
Yeah.
The Right Stuff.
Chicken broth that made it just right. You got the right stuff, baby. You're the reason why I sing this song. Mustache is coming off. You got the right stuff, baby. That is green.
Casserole.
It's very funny. And weird.
I love rock and roll.
I love it.
I love rock and roll was the song, right?
Casserole. It's got 8,000 calories. Babe, it's the last song. Are you excited?
So excited.
We're done, but we'll not be quite. Beans all by themselves are not enough. You gotta add some real unhealthy stuff.
He's so scared his mustache is
Bacon, I
gonna
thought
fall
that.
off.
And deep fried onion. You could also add some Monterey Jack cheese.
What?
Yeah, cheese. Cause everybody loves Monterey Jack cheese. Yeah, cheese.
I like Monterey Jack. It's pretty good, yeah.
It
It doesn't exist in anywhere but
green bean
America,
casserole.
unfortunately. I've never seen any Jacks. There's no Jacks in Europe.
Sorry. Disclaimer.
Be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and notify buttons, and follow our other channels, Toxic Alley, History of Gravy, and Scratchy Old Records.